Hi, it's Gary. Welcome to today's video. Today is Fountain Pen Showdown Day, and I'm going to take a look at two of my favourite Moonman or Majohn pens. The first one, this was, well, when I bought it, it was Moonman, but now Majohn. This is the M800. Really like these pens. I've got all four colours. This particular one has got the Moonman nib. Going up against that, I've got the Majohn T5. This one's a piston filling pen. Love the fact it's got an ink window. Again, it's got a Moonman nib on it. Join me now down on the mat. We'll take a look at the two pens. We'll do some size comparisons, some weights and measures, a writing sample. Then I'll give you my thoughts on these pens. Welcome down to the table. Our two pens, the Majohn or Moonman M800. This is in the blue colour. And we've got the Majohn or Moonman T5. This is in purple. So very much a battle of the mid to high range of the Moonman pens. I love both these pens. One thing though, by looking at them, they are both heavily inspired by some more expensive pens. Saying that, I think they're both quite pretty. Let's take a walk through the bodies. We'll start here with the M800. Just going to turn this around just so you can see the colouring of this. I love the colouring on the M800. I love the shape of it. But saying that, I absolutely love the shape of the Leonardo Memento Zero line. We start on the cap. We've got a point that comes very quickly down. And then slightly tapering until we get to this gold coloured band ring. The clip, nice and springy, got a wheel on there. That spins around quite nicely. The cap is tapering out until it gets to the bottom of the wheel. Then we go straight until we get to these two gold coloured rings. There's a bit more of the material, and then we step down and we see the gold coloured ring which is on the body. The step down is noticeable, but I'm looking for it, so that's why I'm seeing it. When I'm normally using this, it makes no difference, to be honest. The body looks to be tapering down all the way till we get to another ring. Got the gold coloured ring. Then we've got this end cap sealed in place. It's just there for ornamentation more than anything else. Here we've got a point at the end. I think it's a nice looking pen. With the T5, we do have that point on the top. Not as noticeable or as sharp as what we're seeing there on the M800. That's a black end. We come down, we've got a silver coloured clip ring. Again, nice and springy. I like the ball on the end of the clip. I do prefer that to the wheel, I've got to be honest. I don't put my pens into my shirt pockets or, to be honest, other much cloth stuff, so it doesn't really make a difference to me. The cap, again, we taper out, very similar to what was happening with the M800. Until we come to this rather wide ring here. There we've got Majohn, and it looks like just some parallel lines, and we're back to the front. The metal part then tapers down until we get to the body. Now I'm saying this is metal, it might be plastic, I'm not sure, it feels metal to me. The body, just going to turn this around so you can see this, it's a very dark purple. With and you can see like speckles in it, but as I turn it around and it catches the light, we just get these pops of colour. Same on the cap as well. I like this here, this pop here. I think it looks really nice. The body is tapering ever so gently till we get about 3/4 of the way down. It tapers a little bit more steeply. I can actually feel the change there in the taper. We've got another silver coloured ring, and here we've got an actual working mechanism. This pen is a piston filler. This is the piston filling knob. Not going to twist it, I don't want ink all over the place. Let's take the caps off. We'll start with the M800. There's half, one, just under 1.5 turns. Let's pop that there. With the T5, so we go half, 1, 1.5, 2, just under 2.5 turns. I don't like the extra turn on here. I like the 1.5 we've got on the M800. That reveals these two nibs. Let me just pop them next to each other so it makes it a bit easier to look at them. Both these nibs are number 6 size nibs. I haven't on this one, but on one of my other M800s, I've got all 4 colours in the M800. I did swap one of the nibs. It's easy to do. I like the gold colour on the M800, and I like the pattern. So we've got like mountains. Below that is a circular logo. Then below that is Moonman. When I bought this, this was actually still called Moonman. This was before the Majohn renaming. If we look at the other pen, silver coloured and very different in style. This is something which I think is quite interesting. You'd have thought that they would be using the same nibs. Like Jinhao seems to use the same nibs on all their pens. But Moonman, they haven't done that. They're using different nibs. So this is silver coloured. We've got a nice decorative border. Inside there, we've got Moonman. We've got a different logo. And at the bottom of there, we've got M. This is a medium nib, whereas the M800, that's a fine nib. The other big difference is with the T5, we've got this ink window. You can see there, I've still got ink in there. With the M800, we've got this different shaped section. I like the section on the M800. Yes, this is nice here on the T5, but I just like the way this just guides my fingers where they need to be. The M800, it's also a piston filling pen. Again, you can see the ink in there. Let's swap over and we'll look at some size comparisons. Here we are with my standard size comparisons, the Pilot Metropolitan and the Lamy Safari. Now I have swapped over the order of my 2 pens that we're looking at, purely because I want them in price order. But when we're looking at them, all 4 pens are very, very similar in size when the cap's on. Let's take a look at them unposted. Unposted, the T5, we've got the extra length there on that. That is a noticeable difference between that and the M800. The M800 and the Metropolitan, I would say roughly the same size when they're unposted. And then the Safari, I would say is in between the M800 and the T5. Let's pop the caps on and look at these posted. I've posted all the pens. The M800 and the Safari, roughly the same length. The T5, definitely longer, but the T5 doesn't really post that well. You know, a couple of shades and it's off. So wouldn't recommend posting the T5. In the hand, the T5 is quite nice. Might as well take a look at this now. Nice wide section, feels really nice. With the M800, very long when it's posted. I don't like using this posted. I mean, it does post, but just feels really cumbersome and back heavy. Unposted, this is such a comfortable pen. I really enjoy using this and find unposted is perfect. Let's swap over and we'll take a look at some pens in roughly the same price range. The pens I brought in, a Pen BBS 308, 27 Aussie dollars. The Majohn T5, 27 Aussie dollars. The Majohn or Moonman M800, 35 Aussie dollars. And the Hongdian 960, 35 Aussie dollars. Look at the difference there though we've got in sizes. You know, we've got a small, a medium, a large, and then a just about as large. I know, not very descriptive, is it? The nibs, all number 6 size nibs. The sections, all very different. They're all nice pens to use though, we'll be honest about that. Let's take a look at these with the caps on. With the caps on, 308, a little bit longer, but the other 3 pens, you know, very much similar in size. Maybe the M800, 2 or 3 millimeters longer than the other 2, but we're not talking a big difference. Let's swap on over and fetch in the rule of measuring. Here we've got the rule of measuring. We'll start with the T5. So with the cap on, that comes in at 13.9 centimeters. Unposted, that comes in at 13 centimetres. Now, as I say, it doesn't really post. It will go on, and if it goes on, it's 17 centimetres. The width of the body at its widest point, 1.4 centimetres. The cap at the widest point, 1.49 centimetres. And the section goes from 1 centimetre all the way up to 1.17 centimetres. So nice and comfortable. With the M800, try and get this lined up. So with the cap on, 14.2 centimetres. Unposted, 12.7 centimetres. Posted, let's get that there, that's better, then it'll sit nicely. That's 16.6 centimetres. The width of the body is 1.4 centimetres, so same as we're seeing with the T5. The width of the cap, that's 1.5, so near enough the same as the T5. The section goes from 1 up to 1.2. So in terms of the widths, they're very similar. It's just the shape which makes the difference here. Let's swap on over and we'll fetch in the scales of weighing. Here we've got the scales of weighing, again starting with a T5. Now remember, both pens, they've got ink in them. 34 grams, a nice weighty pen, feels very, very nice in the hand. The body only, 21 grams, and the cap, 13 grams. Very nice to use. I like the weight of this pen. The M800, the total pen, 24 grams. You can notice the difference when you're doing a comparison like this, but what I find is when I'm actually using it, it's not too bad. The body, as I say, it's nice, it's comfortable, 17 grams. And the cap, 7 grams. Let's swap on over and fetch in the notepad of testing. Here we've got the notepad of testing. This is Oxford Optic paper, very nice fountain pen friendly paper. So we'll start with the T5. So we've got here a Majohn T5 with a medium nib, and as I've said, that was 27 Aussie dollars. The ink, long one this time, start right over here, so it's Noodler's North African Violet. Really nice ink. I like the purple of this ink. Again, as I say often with browns, I never thought I'd like purple inks, but I quite enjoy them. Drying times, so we got immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, and 1 minute. After a minute, teeniest little bit of a smudge coming off. I'll move the mic down to the page once I straighten the paper up, and we'll do a writing sample. On this paper, this writes really well, but what I've found, especially on coated papers, so papers like Rhodia, I get an awful lot of skipping. Here it doesn't look too bad, and I've really had no issues on this paper. I've had no issues on cheaper papers, but yeah, just watch out with the coated papers. Line variation, so there's no pressure. Here's with some pressure. It does look slightly wider, but it doesn't feel very nice when you're actually writing it. So there's no pressure, with, none, and with. It's a very stiff feeling nib. Flow test, so here's going one direction, and here's going the other direction. This has been asked for by a few people. I'm struggling with it, but I'm going to keep going. I will get there eventually. So that's the Majohn T5. Let's move it up the page ever so slightly. So this time I'm going to go with a new name. So it's a Majohn. It's also a Moonman. And this is the M800. A fine nib. This is the Moonman Fine. You can get these pens with a fine block nib. I do have some of those as well. There is a little bit of a noticeable difference, but not enough to me. You know, I find the Moonman nibs, they're very nice to use. We've already said this was 35 Aussie dollars. The ink is Lamy Crystal and it's Azurite. Drying times, immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute. Still fairly wet there at 1 minute. I'm actually going to do a 2-minute test. I'll do it on the line above. Yeah, after 2 minutes, that's nice and dry now. So as a combo, it takes a while to dry. I'm going to move the mic down to the page so you can hear the pen write. I like writing with this pen. Yes, it's a fine nib. It's a nice, generous, fine nib though. And I do like, you know, look at all the shading we're seeing coming through. Really character-filled writing. Line variation. There's no pressure. I can add a bit of pressure. The nib doesn't feel as stiff as the T5, but I've had this pen over 2 years where I've only had the T5 about 9 months. So it could have been that it's bedded in more through longer use. So no pressure, with pressure, none, and with. Helps if I try and avoid putting my finger where it shouldn't be. And then flow. So this is in one direction. And this is in the other direction. So that's the Majohn M800. So what are my thoughts on these two pens? We'll start with the T5. It's pretty. It's a nice pen. It's a nice, comfortable pen. It takes too many turns to take the cap off. That extra turn of what we saw with the M800 does make a difference to me. I like that it's got an ink window. I personally don't think it's big enough. Could do with being double the width. You know, I do struggle sometimes, especially, you know, when I'm using this dark purple ink. It's hard to see how much is in there. I haven't tried swapping the nib, but it's a number 6 nib, so I'm assuming it would be easy to swap. I like the fact that it's a piston filler. $27 for a piston filling pen. Come on, Moonman. Make the M800 into a piston filler. You obviously know how to do it. The body shapes, the sizes, they're virtually identical. Love to get an M800 as a piston filler. If they did, they'd be virtually instant buys for me. I like, as I say, it's got this nice colour to it, it's got this nice pop. All in all, quite a nice pen. And at 27 Aussie dollars, you know, it was good value. But then I've also got to look at the writing. Yes, here we've got writing all right, and I've already said this, but with Rhodia paper, I struggle. Now, I've got an easy fix for that. I find that Rhodia paper causes a lot of my pens to struggle. So once I've finished my current stock, I'm not going to buy any more. That then takes away that issue with Rhodia paper. But I need to think a little bit about it because I know lots of people write with Rhodia, so maybe I need to get some still and do some testing. I'm still playing around with that in my head. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that. Do you think I should still be using Rhodia paper for some of my tests? The M800, It's a fine nib. It's a fine nib. I'd love to get this as a medium. Well, I'd love to get it as a broad, but a medium would be better. Moonman, they've already demonstrated they can make medium nibs. That's what's on the T5. I'd love to get that. Come on, Moonman. As well as making a piston filler, pop a medium nib on there. I think that would be virtually perfect for me then. The M800, this was my gateway pen. I got this because I loved the look of Leonardo Momento Zeros. They were a lot of money though, aren't they? So, yes, I know this is, I'm going to call it heavily inspired by. Some people might call it a clone or a copy. I think it's heavily inspired by that Leonardo Momento Zero. I've got all 4 colours of the M800 and I loved them. So I then saved and I got a Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. That led me to buy a Leonardo Momento Magico, which led me to buy a Leonardo Furore, which led me to buy about 5 different Italian pens. Very much a gateway pen. And it was bought for that. It was bought so I could test out what it was like. Some people, they may say, yeah, but you shouldn't be buying clones. You shouldn't be buying these copies. We've got to be realistic. You know, a lot of people can't afford the $300-400 to buy a Leonardo, but they can afford $35 to buy one of these. And is it not better to have a pen that you enjoy using than to have no pen at all? Anyway, off my soapbox. I love the section on this. The section is so nice. I love the size, fits just nicely. Say, will post, does feel back heavy to me. Really nice pen. My one quibble is when I'm putting the cap on. You've got to get it right. There it went on straight away, but sometimes I find, let me just try and get, here where it's just turning around a few times. I know I'm pulling it off deliberately, but I find that it takes me sometimes a couple of turns before, there we go, it's not engaging. And then all of a sudden it clicks and engages. That's the only issue I've got with that. I've had all 4 of my M800s for over 2 years. Had no issues with them quality-wise. I've had the T5 about 9 months. Again, no issues quality-wise. They're both good value for money. I really do think they are. I will be honest, if I was pushed and I was told, Gary, you can only have one, I would go for the M800 every day. I absolutely love the M800. It's still one of my personal favourite pens. It's so comfy, it's the right shape, it's the right weight, just so nice. So they're my thoughts on the Majohn T5 with Noodler's North African Violet and the Majohn M800 with Lamy Crystal Azurite. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. What are your thoughts on these pens? Do you have any of them? Have you got both of them? Are they on your to-buy lists? Please drop your comments down below. Let's kickstart the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button. Every time you like, every time you comment, just helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.